everybody, and welcome to the Tidbit of the Day. I'm Stephanie Chung. I'm an award-winning executive coach, an internationally renowned speaker, and a sales mentor to elite salespeople. And so today I want to talk about tip number 3 of my networking series. Now, if you haven't listened to tip number 1 and 2, go back and listen to those. Literally, tip number 1 talked about your research. Tip number 2 talked about the venue. And tip number 3, I've titled this, Don't Be a Spammer. Don't be a spammer. And here's what I mean by that. One time I was actually at an event and I was speaking, and when I got done speaking at the event and I came off stage, a gentleman came up to me, and literally this is how it happened. He came up to me and he said, "Hi, my name is," whatever his name was, and he gives me his business card. And he says, "If you ever need any painting services, please give me a call. I'll provide good service for you." And then he walked away. And I thought to myself, what a horrible way to network. First of all, he didn't ask me if I needed painting service. He didn't ask me anything about me. It was all about him. It's all about him. So here's the news flash. We know in business, at the end of the day, people really don't care about you and your product and your service. They only care about how your product and your service can help them have an easier life or make their job easier. That's it. That's the only reason why people care. And so when you think about networking and not being a spammer, to me, what that gentleman did to me was he became a spam. He gave me something I didn't want. And all of a sudden now I've got his business card. I've got the burden of, having to figure out what to do with this thing because it was all about him in this case. So for me, when I talk about networking and doing it effectively, here's what I mean by that. When I'm at a networking event, I literally do not give someone my business card unless they ask me for it. That's the only time that I'll give the business card. Because usually we've been taught the wrong way, which is really go to a networking event, give out as many business cards as you can, and then, miraculously some kind of business is going to come out of it. How many of you have actually had business come out of a networking event that you just gave someone a business card and, you really didn't get to build the relationship? Probably very few, because at the end of the day, none of us like to be spammed. And so here's how I do networking, and I really am mindful not to be a spammer. The very first thing that I'll do is when I start asking people questions, I'm not asking them about, what is it that you do, so that they can hurry up and finish talking and I can talk about what I do. I don't do it that way. I really go in with the intention of trying to understand, build the trust, build the rapport, and build somewhat of a relationship with the very limited amount of time that we have there, so that if they find value in the conversation, then they will A, ask me for my business card, and B, we can take the relationship to a different level by perhaps meeting in my office or meeting for coffee at some other time. That's the objective. And how I get there is really simple. Here's some questions that I ask when I'm actually at a networking event talking to someone that I think I want to build a relationship with. The very first thing that I'll say after I introduce myself is, tell me a little bit about yourself. What is it that you do? How long have you been part of this association? Have you liked being part of the association? If so, what do you like about the association? Tell me a little bit about your industry. How's the industry going right now? How's the election affecting your industry? Who's your number one competitor in the industry? How long have you been in your industry? What made you get into your industry? And so on and so forth. Those are the kind of questions that I ask. Notice I didn't ask, oh, well, do you ever look at executive coaching? Or, I don't ask anything that's going to shoot their attention back to me. I'm only about the person in front of me. Now, once you start having that kind of dialogue and he or she is having a good in-depth discussion about what it is that they do and why they do it and what they love and what concerns they have and what challenges they have, inevitably they're going to realize that they're doing all the talking. And then the law of reciprocity kicks in. And then they will inevitably turn the table and say, you know what? Oh my gosh, I've been talking so much. Tell me a little bit about what do you do? And then at that point, I can talk about what it is that I do and so on and so forth. But I don't just start talking about what I do. I have them, ask me, and I never give a business card until they ask me for a card. Because here's what's interesting. People remember people based on how that person made them feel. That's how we remember people. And so usually the best way for people to have a positive memory about your interaction with them is by them being able to talk about themselves. right? It's really interesting. When we talk about ourselves, the brain actually produces a dopamine effect. That's why we actually like talking about ourselves. And so, the best thing that you can do as a salesperson or as an entrepreneur is whenever you're meeting someone for the first time, spend time asking them questions so you learn more about them. They have an opportunity to talk about themselves. That makes them feel like you were awesome. And then at the appropriate time, they will, I promise, they'll ask you, what do you do? How can I help you? And that is the key to networking. I hope you found this 3-tip series very helpful. You know what? Shoot me an email or go on my blog and, give me some feedback about what you did with the tips, how you found them helpful, and what you'd like to actually hear me talk about in the future. But in the meantime, remember, you're smarter than you think, way cooler than they ever told you. Now, let's get on out there and sell something.